I ponder a lot on the subject of why we have such difficulty with our addictions. And most of the time when you talk about addictions, the mind closes in, or some minds close into a specific substance addiction. And of course, some other minds broaden out to, well, there's not only substance addictions, but there's also addictions to emotions and gambling and other material things also. But no matter which one you're talking about, no matter which addiction you're talking about, there still seems to be, in this country at least, trouble in transcending those addictions and leaving them behind, turning our backs on them, not giving them the power that they hold sway over lots of people here in the West. So, why? Well, first of all, in my opinion, we don't see addictions for what they are. We see them as people making us go through something, people pushing our buttons. But we don't see them as habits. So one of the ways that I'll ask you to look at your suffering and your addictions is that there's nothing particularly special about them. It's not that there's a weakness in them. It's just that we have a habit of doing it that way. And we define that then as anger or fear or depression or sadness or loneliness or lamentation. But it's just a habit. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is to go back to the beginning, go back to the basics, and so that everybody's standing on firm ground, everybody has a solid foundation from which to project their intentions and their powers and their confidence and their convictions. The Buddha said, I do not say that final knowledge or gnosis is achieved all at once. So that's the first thing. We can't just come in and expect, and the light just comes on and I start walking on water. We can't expect that. We have to expect that there's a process. And so we'll discuss that process, or we have been discussing those processes. But I'm going to sort of bring them back into their container, because they're all kind of, it's like a kid's room, they're all kind of scattered around the floor, everything's out the toy chest. So I want to bring them back in. So the Buddha says that there's these two kinds of beginners. Once you've decided to study this practice, to enter the stream, there are two kinds of persons who do that. One is called a Dhamma follower, and one is called a faith follower. So the first thing to know is, who are you? We have it we've had it pretty easy in one context in the West, because we've only had one way to go. We only have one door to go through, and that was Christianity. And it just sort of encouraged us to come to church, and that would be all we had to do. We got all of our strength and our direction from coming to a special place, a sacred place. And we wouldn't have to do much work ourselves. We could just depend on the Holy Spirit, be guided by the Holy Spirit. But the Buddha said, well, first of all, you've got to decide what kind of person you are. Are you a Dhamma follower or are you a faith follower? So how do you know that if you don't even know what those terms mean? Right? So does anyone have an idea of what a Dhamma follower would be? Yes, John?
Based on my readings, I usually break it down into a truth or a compassion vehicle, a service or a liberation vehicle, and another way, if you're Western, you would say the mind or the heart. And of course, the one reality suggests they're all coming from the same understanding. So, for me, the truth approach and using the mind has allowed me to drop and soften into the heart. And then I meet the folks who are very devotional, and they go right into the feelings and the emotions, and then you kind of get a sense of, oh, how do you bridge that with a rationality in the mind? So, and then...
So which one would be
truth for me?
The mind, and which one would be
I say
the heart?
We're going to go the mind being the truth, and the faith being the heart.
Okay.
And there's a belly quality somewhere in there too. But
so, the Dhamma follower would be a technician. He would be the one that would take the stone cold practice and employ it and see benefit from it. That would be the Dhamma follower.
Precise, objective.
Okay. And of course, then the faith follower would be the one from the heart that has a lot of love and faith in the teaching or the teacher. And I've always said that we as foundational Christians should not have any problem with any faith, because we've accepted something that is truly hard to swallow. And that is virgin birth. So if we are willing to have faith in that, then we're willing to have faith in anything. And I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying that if you can see back when you had the confidence and the faith in a Christian theology which espoused virgin birth, then you can see that you can be able to spread your patience and your faith to other pathways that might be a little foreign to you at this time. But whether you decide that you are a faith follower or a Dhamma follower, the thing that I wanted to express and share this morning is that there are requirements whether you choose one or the other. That is not important. What's important with the choice is that you you have direction, you have a plan, because it's important to know who you are and what your strong suits are. He tells us that no matter which one we choose to be, which one we believe we are, whether we believe we are a Dharma follower, or a technician, or a faith follower, that we need to develop and balance the 5 faculties. And that's what I'm getting to now. The 5 faculties. Why is it so hard to do what it is that you want to do? And the Dharma says that the reason why it's hard to do is because your faculties are not balanced. So now again, to balance our faculties, we need to know what the faculties are. So does anyone remember what the 5 faculties are? A part of our responsibility, whether we consider ourselves a faith follower or a Dharma follower, as a stream enterer, as someone investigating the Dharma, investigating what's called Buddhism as a way of liberation, it is our responsibility to, first of all, come and hear what it has to say. That's what you're doing. You're coming to a Dharma hall, a Sangha hall, a meditation hall, a workshop, a convention, to hear what it's all about, to see whether that's something that will fit your idea of practice. But then it requires us to be there and listen. Not to be there and discredit silently, well, that won't work, or that's not true, but to just keep that open mind and listen. But then the next thing is to memorize. It's not just a matter of listening, it's also a matter of memorizing and being mindful or remembering what we've heard. So this is why I ask a lot of questions. I get your participation because I also have my fingers on your pulse. I want to know how good I'm doing by seeing how good you're doing. Yes, Bobby?
As soon as you say, what are the 5 faculties? I remember there are so many lists. And I get a little confused. But I think they were the same as the sense gates, aren't they? The faculties are sight and hearing, no?
No, we're not talking about the sense gates.
Okay.
Well, that's good, though. You're thinking.
I remember some of these things, but there were so many lists, I get a little confused as to what's the faculties. Say one of them and I'll probably remember the rest. But
conviction or faith. First one.
Oh, okay. I don't remember them all then, but I do remember that. I thought maybe it would all come back to me, but it didn't.
Did I give you the one you already knew? Okay. All right. My bad.
No.
Okay. So it tells us that we have to have confidence or conviction or faith in what we're doing, or we won't do it. I mean, that's just human nature. If we don't have a strong pull to it, or yearn for it, or belief in it, we're not going to do it anyway. We're not going to go to church just because it's open on Sunday. We have to have a faith that when we go there, we will benefit. Something special will happen for us. So we have to believe, we have to have faith or conviction that we will be separated from the things that drag us down and cause us to feel like we're drowning. The things that will liberate us, the practices and the information that will liberate us and free us from our habit, that habit of always doing what we don't want to do, but we do it anyway. And although we make promises, we keep doing it. So conviction or confidence. No one? Okay. What do we need to accomplish? Okay, what do we need to accomplish success in anything that we might be doing? We need energy. We need the zeal. We need that force that is the wind under our wings, that gives us the energy to come to Dharma, that gives us the energy to get up and meditate. So, conviction or faith, energy, effort. It's one of the, and that should be one that's easy for you to remember, Bobby, because that's also what? One of the nobles, one of the Eightfold Path. Right effort. Okay, right effort. What's the one that everyone's talking about? Everyone's always talking about in the West. What's the mindfulness? Absolutely. The third faculty, mindfulness. The fourth one. What comes after mindfulness? Concentration. Okay. And then the fifth one? Wisdom or discernment or knowing, gnosis. Now what's important to realize about this list is that first of all it gets us there, but it also propels us into higher states of existence. We're not liberated from existence yet, but we're propelled to higher states of realization and existence. But there's something that we have to do with these 5 things. It's not just coming and hearing them and memorizing them and even practicing them. There's something special that we have to do. We have to balance them. The hub of the wheel is mindfulness. Doesn't mean it's more important or less important. It just means that's the hub of the wheel. And then there is conviction and wisdom. So we won't have blind faith. It's about energy and serenity. So that we won't go into sloth and torpor, and we won't get restless and jittery. So these 2 pairs, faith and wisdom, energy and tranquility, have to be balanced. And then they have to be the spokes, if you will, around this wheel of mindfulness. It's an image that lets us know that we can't, in our daily walk, we can't forget any of them. It's not like we can say, and this is our problem, I think, that we kind of latch on to one factor, I'm going to be mindful, or I'm going to be concentrated, or I'm going to be faithful. And we kind of hang to the one, and to the detriment of ourselves about not incorporating the other 4. So it tells us that we've got 5 balls to juggle, which means we've got to develop a sense of presence. We've got to know when we're mindful and when we're not. We've got to know when we're faithful and when we're not. We've got to know when we have energy and when we don't. We've got to know when we're settled and tranquil and when we're not. We've got to know those things. We've got to know them cold. Because it is our requirement not only to memorize them, to learn about them, to be able to talk about them, to read them in a book, but also to be able to tweak them at any time, day or night. To adjust. The biggest or the most prominent discouragement and challenge is just simply to ask yourself, why is it that when you are being mindful and you see an unwholesome state arising, you don't stop it and abandon it? Why did you keep on holding on and going with it? You know? And then getting mad again. Getting angry again. So one of the fundamental things that I would ask you to observe and be aware of is our tendency not to abandon the unwholesome state of mind that's arising, or the unwholesome state of mind that's present. I have my ideas, but they're just my ideas. I mean, it's for each of us to ask ourselves, why am I having such a problem with this? Okay.
I think I had that experience this morning. I got upset because someone in my house put things somewhere they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And I got annoyed, and she left, and I was going around and fixing things because my house is on the market and it has to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then I got in the car and driving over here, and I was just talking to myself, thinking, why did she do that? I knew I've asked her a million times, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, why am I doing this? Yeah. Why am I staying in this state of agitation? Yeah. It's a choice. I don't have to do this. Yeah. And I think for me, as you said, it's habit. It's an old habit. And what do I get out of that habit? Probably a feeling of righteousness. You know, I'm better
you get
than that.
Suffering.
Pardon?
You get suffering.
Well, you get suffering.
You were
too.
driving and suffering and angry and you know.
And I thought to myself, I choose to be happy. I choose to let this go and focus on the good things. So that's what I get from coming and hearing you.
All right.
But
well, this
I
is
don't
what we're
always
talking
catch
about.
myself right away. And
well, this is because you're not being mindful, are you? If you don't catch yourself right away, that means you're not there to catch yourself right away. Mm-hmm. That you're more caught up in the emotion than you are in the resolution. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And then all of a sudden it dawns on you that you don't have to do this. You can have the same experience in a different way. But now you're becoming mindful that you've got choices. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay.
I was just going to make a comment back to John's thread. Yeah. Last week we were meditating, and you said, "Send love to Alabama." So for the first time, I realized that in meditation, this is what I associated with when he was talking about launching, and the way he talked about it. It made me realize if you achieve a certain state of serenity, concentration, and you can rest in that, then you can actually launch something, because I was able to stay in that state of concentration and yet focus on sending love to Alabama and not lose or let that be a distraction from my meditation. Now, if I try to do it in the beginning of my meditation, it would be a distraction. But once you reach that place, you can launch, engage in action.
I see that. Thank you for sharing that.
That's what I associated with what he seemed to be talking about.
Yeah, now, does everyone understand? Okay. Now, that's a point of view, right? That's a perception. we could all say, and that sounds pretty good. That sounds like it would be the right answer, but we still don't know the right answer because the only one who knows the right answer is the one who had the right question, who made a statement, right? So, but it has a high probability of being what it was that this particular monastic was talking about. We still don't know. Okay. All right. Are there any questions about the 5 faculties?
So you use serenity and concentration are the same. Is that correct? Because
okay.
you contrasted serenity
Yeah.
with energy. And then later, but at first when you listed them, you called one concentration. I assume that was the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So remember what happens, what we're talking about here is that when we employ technology of being single-pointed or concentrated, it is also accompanied by a peace, right? Because we go to a place where it doesn't have a lot of confusion and drama. Doesn't have any, as a matter of fact. So that's that.
Can you give us some examples of balance, more examples of balancing the 5?
No. And I'm saying that because, my expression of, I can say balance all day, but you still don't know what that is until you go inside with your own practice and say, now, okay, I've got these 5 balls, I've got these 5 faculties, these 5 powers, and of course they become powers once they become developed, but I got these 5 things that I've got to kind of be aware of, including what time I'm coming out of my meditation and what else I have to do today. I've got these things now that I've got to be balancing and juggling. And which ones am I supposed to juggle? Oh, okay. Faith and wisdom. Okay. Now, how do I know that? Well, I know that by knowing that. Not knowing the information, not knowing the pairing, but knowing how those two feel when they are imbalanced inside of me. And no matter how much, and this is what I'm trying to share with everybody, no matter how much I talk about some experience that I have, you don't know what in the hell I'm talking about. Because it's not your experience. I can only say, okay, now here's what you work on next. And then you go, well, how do I feel when I'm balanced? How do I feel? And then to bring those states of mind into being, into presence, that I am balancing. And I say to myself, okay, I've got faith and I've got concentration. No. Yes. I've got faith and I've got wisdom right now. I've called those things up inside of me. How do I feel? Do I feel okay? Do I feel at peace? Do I feel stable? If you do, then they must be balanced, because if they're out of balance, for instance, there's a sutta, and right now I can't remember the number, but it was about the father whose only son died. And he was running around the village, just pulling his hair out and yelling and screaming, and where's my son? I want my son back, and I can't do anything about this, and I don't know where he is, and somebody help me. And he went to the Buddha, and he said, my only son has died, and I'm just going crazy. And Buddha said, well, it's understandable. Your faculties are deranged. So that's giving us an illustration of what happens when you're not balanced. Yeah? You act crazy, you act immature, you get mad, you pout. If your faculties were balanced this morning, you would not have had the eruption that you did. That's how you know. How do I know? When I'm at peace with myself and when I'm at peace with everyone else. When I have no discrepancy and no axe to grind, no dog in the fight. Now I know my faculties are balanced. Okay? You're welcome. Yes?
So could you say that if things are arising that are problematic or that don't feel good, could you say that these 5 faculties would be like a toolbox that we could turn to, that whatever the difficulty, that we can look to these 5 to help balance arise?
Yeah. But don't look at them as the toolbox, look at them as tools in the toolbox, because there are many other tools to use too. But those are definitely a great start and probably all you need. It's like being able to use a hammer to put the sink back together. Okay? Let's go inside for a few minutes. And what we're doing again, we're starting at the beginning again. So we're starting back with the inspection of contents of consciousness. That's all. Because everything starts with what? Everything originates with what? No. Everything in conditioned reality originates where? Mind, yes. Everything starts here, as a man thinketh. So, the place to look for things that are not beneficial is not to wait until they get out here where we deal with them, but it's to deal with them while they're in here, when they're still soft and nebulous. It's a lot easier to work with a thought than to work with the anger or the sorrow or the depression or the addiction. It's about working with it here while it's still just a thought, that it is so nebulous that you can't even touch it. You can't wrap your mind around it. It's not even owned by me yet. It's just something that's passing through my consciousness. Huh? So again, our first responsibility is to find the things that make us unhappy in mind. The things that disrupt us and cause imbalance in our actions and in our speech. And then to do what with them? To use right effort to abandon them. And to see how well you do this week. Or do you wait until they become full-blown and out of control before you try to wrestle them to the ground, before you try to make them go away? Now they've got a energy and a power. Okay, we're saying, work with them while they're easy. Don't cling to them. Don't leave the house with them. The easiest way to work with the situation, in my opinion, is when you first get up in the morning and you're sitting on the edge of the bed, or you still haven't taken your feet out from under the sheets yet, that you check your mind. See what crept in during the night. And ask yourself, are these wholesome thoughts or are they unwholesome thoughts? And if they are unwholesome thoughts, then you abandon them. How do you abandon them? Somebody tell me. That's the easiest way to do it. If I'm thinking about this, I can't be thinking about that. If I'm thinking about loving you, I can't be thinking about hating you at the same time. It don't happen. It's impossible. If I'm fearful, I think about the courage that's in me. If I'm cruel, I think about the compassion that's in me. If I feel needy and without, I think about my abundance. What I do have that I'm grateful for. Again, that's a lot easier than waiting for waiting for a monster to develop and erupt, and then try to put the cap back on. Because we all know how long that takes. Sometimes it takes us getting a half hour away from our home. Sometimes it takes us all week. Okay? But for this week, this is what we want to look at. Unwholesome states arise. How long does it take me before I turn my back on them, before I abandon them, before I drop them to the ground and pick up its antithesis? How long does it take me? And this is the assignment. Because when I start being able to do these things quickly, these wholesome things replacing with wholesomeness quickly, that immediately turns my whole state of mind around and how I see the world. I don't carry it with me. I don't allow it to infect me, infect my mind, infect my being. I drop it in place and replace it with kindness and love, with compassion and altruism, with equanimity, wholesomeness. That's what I want to carry around with me. And then pretty soon that becomes the habit. See, the habit now is, my habit is anger, or my habit is sorrow, or my habit is fear. And I want to replace that with something else, something different. So, let's see what is in there. And then ask ourselves, why do I cling to it? Because that's what you're doing. found things that they didn't know were there. Yeah, good. Were they positive or negative? No, they can't be both.
Well,
Remember, two opposite aspects of truth cannot exist in the same block of consciousness.
I guess the finding of them was positive.
Okay. The finding of the negative
Yes.
thoughts and energies or unwholesomeness was part. Yeah, that's true. That's true because I can't fight. I can't work with what I don't know is there. I'm delusional. I think I'm clear, but I'm really not. I'm really toxic and dirty.
Yes, I am.
Well, no. I said, you can't claim my stuff. You can't claim my stuff. I work too hard for my stuff. Okay. Not putting anybody on the spot, but tell me a faculty.
One of the five?
Yes.
Right effort.
Great. Who else? Okay. 2. Who else? 3. Who else? 4. Who else? All right. All right. I know that you felt like you don't have to learn anything else in life and you can just coast until the lights go out, but that's not true. Well, that's true, you can. But you don't have much fun doing it that way. You know, being angry all the time, being fearful all the time, being afraid, being depressed, being sorrowful. You might as well go back to work.
Or stay at work.
Oh, well, yeah, so this whole promise of heaven on earth and goodwill towards men, all of those things happen not because we have meetings and diversity groups, but because we go inside and clean out the closet, get all of that old stuff out, all of that toxicity out of the consciousness. And then everything that we do out here brings a breath of fresh air. Okay? It doesn't feel good when someone doesn't feel good about you. It just doesn't. And you spend a lot of time going around saying, well, what could I have done? What did I do? When people are angry at you. You want to know how you can make it better so they won't be angry at you anymore. So keep those 5 states there and apply them to everything that goes on in your daily life. That awareness that you have a choice, you don't have to suffer, and you don't have to make others suffer. You have a choice. Yeah, but they did now. That's what we pull back from. And go, just as I can point my finger, I can point my heart. Okay. Thank you for putting up with my stuff. Be mindful, stay balanced, and I will see you next time. May all beings be liberated from suffering. May we be well. May we be happy. May we be peaceful. Thank you so very much for everything you do. Appreciate it.